As part of my series on making Gothic armor for beginners, I'm going to be doing several videos on making the different sections of this arm harness. There are a lot of very different styles of arm armor within the Gothic style, and I plan on doing videos showing how to build some of the alternatives, but this is a relatively easy example to start with. Yes, this is an entry level build. It doesn't need a forge and it can be done using only basic tools and techniques. And the only heat I ended up using was to heat tint it, but that is optional and very extra. Templates in the description. In this video, we will be starting with the Spaulders, which are a type of shoulder defense that are smaller than Pauldrons. These are based on a family of Spaulders designed to be used with floating elbows, which I have seen ranging in dates from about 1470 to 1520. They could be outside of those dates, but I never claimed to be an expert on history. I just like making armor. Alright, so I've taken all the pieces and I've cut them out, I've filed and smoothed the edges, laid them out, marked the center line. Now the first step to do after this is to then dish them all. You want them to be slightly dished, just because, well, we don't want them flat. Alright, so we've got a bit of depth to the shape. You don't want lames to be just a piece of metal that's been bent in one direction. You want them to be a compound curvature. This makes all of your pieces more elegant and makes it look more like real armor, but also helps with the articulation and movement. It also makes it more rigid and difficult to deform, as well as making it better at providing glancing surfaces. Alright, so after you dish them all, you want to start with this bottom lame, getting it so that it's fitting nicely around your bicep. You want to be able to still bend your arm like that, not have it dig in. If you want to get that nicely rounded and evenly rounded, then you match every single lame above that to this one going up, and make sure it matches like that. Of course, you should have got the length correct for you by messing around with the cardboard beforehand, but so that's it in the arm down position, so all of the articulations are expanded, but as you can see, as you raise your arm, the outer line, the distance along there, decreases because your shoulder becomes straight. So once you shape them and rivet them together, you then need to put in a sliding rivet. Now, I put on all of these little scalloped pointy bits, I put the rivet hole half an inch in, and then I measure 1/4 of an inch from the inner lane. Yeah, as you can see, I mark a line that is 1/4 inch down. I use the original templates to make sure that it's a curved line, so it maintains the 1/4 inch away from the top. And then, I take it, put my outer lame over the top with the hole already drilled in, make sure it's in a nice position, make sure the holes line up with the lines underneath, mark it out, and that's where your holes go. So yeah, now what I need to do is basically that again, but I'm going to be moving it down. Now if you want to make this really easy, you can articulate all of these with leathers and just have rivets that are only on the outside, lame, so that they're aesthetic rivets, or you can have sliding rivets on the back line and a center and front sort of leather straps, riveting it to leather straps. So to make the slot for the sliding rivet, I used a marker on the outside of the armor to show where the edge of the top lame
would be overlapping the bottom lame when it is fully extended. This gives me a maximum length for the slot that I can make it without it being exposed. It's not the end of the world if it does get a bit exposed. That turns up a lot in originals. So then, because my rivet is in line with the point, I just drew a line going from the original hole to where the point is marked out. Made sure that the holes in the outer lame still line up with that line so it doesn't get wider or narrower. Drilled a hole as close to that edge as I was willing to go. Drilled extra holes lining it up, and then used my needle files to join them all into a long slot.
Right, now I've put it back on with a washer on there and put some screws in. Got them a bit loose with these and with the rivet when you finally do it, but as you can see, it allows it to angle from side to side, expand and contract. Now it's not a lot because that's only a quarter of an inch. Mark it out with a permanent marker and see how much longer I can make it that way without it exposing, but it's only a little bit. But you saw how many lames we've got. It all adds up. Alright, so now I've got all these sliding rivets in, and yeah, got quite a lot of flexibility, presses, expands. So when it's on your shoulder like that, and it's down, it's expanded. As you raise your arm, it compresses. Probably does a little bit more length in the slots for the rivets. Yeah, probably not going to be lifting my arm up too much, but you could, make the slots longer if you want to be able to compress a bit easier. Next thing I'm going to do on these is I want to roll the edge of the arm cutout.
So what I'm showing here is one of several ways you can start rolling an edge. I mark out the amount I want to start rolling. I like to start with about half an inch. So I let that material overhang the edge of the anvil, and then I strike the overhang with my hammer, slowly angling it and work back and forward until I start getting it turned around 90 degrees or starting to get close to 90 degrees, and then I can start rolling it back on itself. Then once it's close to 90 degrees, I round it around the tip of a rounded off blunt cold chisel. This is the same cold chisel I use for my fluting. I've just drilled a hole in some wood and stuck it in there to hold it in place. Now you can skip using the edge of the anvil and just start straight with a rounded off chisel, but either way, using a chisel mounted in a block of wood like this helps you get it closer to rolling all the way around before you can start rolling it downwards by placing the piece over some material that backs it and then continuing to roll the edge down to the plate.
Alright, now I've extended all of the slots for the sliding rivets. All I did was I extended it out as far as it would go lengthways, marked it out with a sharp marker, then basically just extended the slots for the sliding rivets until they were as close to that drawn line as I was willing to go. Had a few little mistakes, making it a bit too long, so there's little spots where you can just see through it when it's at maximum extension, but honestly no one's going to notice. I had a similar mistake at the top where I forgot to add in a bit of extra material, so at full extension the slots and the top ones stick out, but honestly almost no one's going to notice, and the originals have stuff like that going on too, where you can see the slot rivets coming out even on like royal level stuff. So now what I'm going to do next is I'm going to do a ton of fluting. Now if you want to be a bit more period accurate, most of the examples in the style would probably only have a center flute up the middle on those points, but I like going overboard on everything and I want to be fancy, and I love dense fluting. So here, these lines are all parallel, half an inch apart. Then from there to there extends from there, so like it angles out. So that one is 5/8 of an inch. That from that one to that one is 6/8 of an inch. From that one to that one is 7/8 of an inch, and marked out an inch from, these are all an inch apart. So I then took a piece of cardboard from an earlier template that was slightly curved. So yeah, just trace it out with just the tiniest bit of curve, just so that it flows a bit and blend them together. And yeah, so they're not perfectly straight, because perfectly straight lines are quite ugly. Kind of probably would have wanted to narrow these in a bit, but it's a tiny detail, very few people are going to notice. But the big mass of it flares out, and so I'm going to flute that using my blunt chisel on a piece of wood method. I've got a standalone video of me showing how to do that, so I don't need to go through it again. Alright, so I seem to have forgot to record anything past that point. Alright, so I put the flutes in, which I have a video on how to do that, and yeah, just a matter of putting in the sliding rivets, making sure that they're nice and wide slots that can slide up and down in, and with just use some washers. So you don't want to make it too tight. Basically, you're riveting it to the washer, so it's a little bit not. It's not as tight as if you were riveting something solid. Just so it's got a bit of give, and it can move. So you get this beautiful movement, and if you get it nice and smooth, you can basically make solid steel move like cloth, and it's kind of beautiful to see. Then on the bottom largest lame, I'm just adding some straps, give it plenty of holes, give it a nice long strap, and then make sure it actually attaches. I just use a buckle and just rivet it on. It's easy. These are so cheap, it's kind of a pain to. Buckles are one of those things that I prefer to buy because they take a ton of time to make. I've attached a leather tab up the top. That's where you lace it to. If you want to make this really easy to put on, like if you wanted to make this so you could put it on yourself, you could put a buckle there and have a tab on your arming doublet and just buckle it to the tab. But I went with pointing it. You need to work that out when you're doing the size adjustments with your templating. And yeah, there are 2 holes down here. That's so they can attach the elbow to it. Just a quick note, I'm going to have a video out on making one of these super basic elbows, and yeah, essentially this is kind of not the most historical way of doing it. I'm kind of cheating a little bit in terms of historical accuracy, but historically speaking, the van brace and the Spaulder should have the strap riveted to it, and then we lace the elbow to that strap, but I've done it the other way around just to help with the modularity, so that I can swap out any individual piece without having to remove rivets. Yeah, essentially those holes there, so you can lace it on, and these holes are at a point where it shouldn't overlap. So essentially you lace it through, then you put it on, and then you've got an elbow attached to the other. Same with the van brace. But yeah, this is actually, despite this looking extremely advanced, it's actually quite a basic build that I think any beginner should be able to make. Though if you don't want to add, if you don't want to add an elbow, you could just make that bottom a bit flat. But then once it's all done, I wax it up with I'm working on my own formula for a special armour wax. At the moment I'm dissolving about a fist-sized piece of white paraffin candle wax into some clear liquid paraffin wax. It makes kind of like a cream. Lather it on, hit it with a heat gun, make sure it gets into everything, reapply a few times, and after a while it develops this lovely wax coating that helps protect it from rust. I should probably do a standalone video on making that armour wax, and of course use it on the inside. If you don't, the inside will rust, then that'll get onto your arming doublet and your mail and be nasty. But if you want to go all out, you can just melt candle wax onto the inside or paint the inside.